Welcome to Dayton Superior Learning Center. This session, we will discuss the use and application of heavy-duty forming use with sticks and boards. Once again, thank you for your time. This presentation is intended for training purposes only. For technical specifications on the products mentioned in this training, please refer to www.daytonsuperior.com. As we said, with this we're going to talk about sticks and boards, heavy duty forming system. Before we start, all of these components that we are going to refer to today will have a 2-to-1 safety factor as recommended for safe practice by ACI 347. Typically, that means that we will have a 2-to-1 safety factor. So in other words, the ultimate load capacity divided by 2 is what we will have for a safe working load. In the past, we've talked about light duty forming. These are ties up to 3,350 pounds or less. The example, snap ties, loop ties, pencil rod, etc. Today, we are going to talk about heavy duty formwork. These ties have a safe working load of 9,000 pounds or more. Example, she bolts, coil ties, and taper ties. Typical heavy formwork in the past has been with sticks and boards. It has always been a very labor intensive component piece. This is a product that is slowly going by the wayside because of the introduction of a European gang form system that comes into play now here for most of the forming manufacturers. So we don't see, when we get into the heavier forming products, we don't typically see a lot of plywood forming. Everything pretty much at that point is starting to go modular. Job built panels typically using 2x4s or 2x6 studs, 8 inches on 8, 12 or 16 inches in center with 3/4 inch plywood, double 2x6 wailers at 24 to 32 inches on center, heavy duty tie spaced at 24 or 32 inches on center. Most of these forms are handled by crane. And as we see today, most of these systems that we're talking about are actually evolving into a gang form system or a modular system. As you can see here, we have our Simon Steel Ply product line, along with our Flex Form system and our Simply system. All of these systems here are the newer evolution of how concrete formwork is evolving. So, but to start it all out here, we actually had coil ties. Coil ties are self-cleaning coil threaded ties, which use a standard coil rod to thread into it. They are self-cleaning, so you don't have to worry about concrete sticking to them or getting stuck to the working components. It is a threaded connection, positive attachment to one side of the form, so you can actually attach one side of the form in its entirety, and then come back later on and attach the second side, the mirror side on the other side of the formwork to it independently. Limitations. This was a very high initial cost product line. Hence why we've actually, as we're seeing, the product have actually migrated away from it. It is also extremely labor intensive. The coil ties typically come in a coil tie with either 2 struts or 4 struts, or you can get it with water seals, etc. Comes in available 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, and you can get those in 2 and 4 strut. You can also get them with a coil tie end, which is an elongated coil on the end, which actually will accept a plastic cone that will screw on. And this will give you a definitive wall dimension. Let's say you want a 10-inch wall with 1 inch break back, 1 inch cover, concrete cover. So what you would order is you would order a B1, B3 coil tie that is 8 inches long, and then have 2 1-inch plastic cones that would screw onto it. And that would give you a 10-inch wall. Typically, you're going to use a coil bolt to thread up to it. Like we said, the initial cost of this product line is extremely expensive. But the one thing is the majority of the products are reusable. Every time you use this product, the only thing you really lose on the site is the coil tie, which gets embedded into the concrete. You can use standard coil rod. Standard coil rod, much cheaper application than a coil bolt. Use a coil rod with a coil nut. Standard length for the coil rod is 12 foot. You have availability of 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, 1.25 inch, and 1.5 diameters. It's manufactured from high strength cold rolled steel. You can also use a she bolt system, which basically takes into consideration using what they call an inside tie rod, usually made out of coil rod. Can be assembled to make up the tie. So no bolts are required from it, because this is actually the bolt that actually will attach to the inside tie. And you can attach your nuts and washers on the outside of your formwork to make this a reusable anchor. Biggest problem you have with this is that there is no spreader in the concrete. So what you will have to do is you will have to make a wood spreader to actually spread the concrete form to the select wall thickness when you pull it up tight. The she bolts typically come in 3/4 inch through 1 5/8 in diameters of an 1/8 inch increments. Typically, safe working loads provide basically 2 to 1. Once again, the components are fully reusable. The only thing you are going to lose on this project is what we call the inside rod. Technical data that's available on it is available in our handbook from DaytonSuperior.com. Inside tie rods, you have a D1 inside tie rod. Typically is threaded on both ends with a flat in the middle of it. Usually what you will see in most job sites will actually use a B12, or excuse me, D18, which is your B12 coil rod that they will cut to length. So that is available in 12-foot lengths, or you can get it cut to size. In lieu of using a threaded connection like that, to have basically the adjustability of any wall thickness that you want, you can go to the taper tie. The taper tie is available just as it says, it's a tie that is tapered from one end to the other. So it's 100% reusable. A very high initial cost, but the reuse application of this tie system is immense. I mean, you can reuse this tie 100, 150 times without any problems. The ties typically come in a standard length, overall length up to 80 inches and maximum length. So that if you're doing a lot of projects that have a consistent wall dimension from 18 to 24 inches, you can use the same taper tie on that project over and over and over again. The one drawback with it is if you have big variances in wall thicknesses from 4 foot to say 18 inches, you may have to, or you will have to go to a second tie system for that. The accessories that go along with it are the B11 flat washer and the D22 battered washer. Those battered washers are typically available for whenever you're forming a battered wall. And we have coil nuts for all of these. We have a standard duty B13 and a B25 heavy duty. The B25 heavy duty is the equivalent in strength of 2 B13s. We also have a B39 cast wing nut, which is available from 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter for ease of connectivity. Now, all these components that we talked to so far all match up to standard coil rod dimensions. A standard coil rod typically has a pitch of about 6 inches, 6 threads per inch, and has been around since I think construction first started. It's an older system. When the European systems actually came over to the US here about 1985, a lot of the systems came in with what they call the Euro system. Now, the European rod system is a much coarser thread system. This system basically has 2.5 threads per inch. So right off the get-go, it's 50% faster to thread product than a standard coil thread product. Standard length of this product is 19 foot 1 inches. It comes in 2 available diameters, a 15 millimeter and 20 millimeter. The nice thing about the Euro rod, because it is a hot rolled item, it comes out of the mill from that, so it is hot rolled steel. It's not cold rolled like our coil rod is. But this material is available to be bent and welded to. And you can see safe working load is about 21,338.8. We can actually do a cold rolled threaded rod. Comes in a standard length of 20 foot, 15 millimeter and 20 millimeter and a 26 millimeter. Cannot be welded to and cannot be bent in the field. The problem with this system is it is extremely fast, quick, and easy. The only difference between the Euro rod and the DR threaded rod is, as you can see, the Euro rod has a flat spot on it. That's how you know that it comes out of a steel mill. It's been rolled like that with a flat on it. And the flat comes into consideration when you have to remove it from concrete. You can actually put a wrench on it to actually spin it. The standard DR rod is a cold rolled product, so it's basically taking a round piece of steel and having the threads rolled into it, just like we do with the standard coil thread. And the coil thread actually has a much tighter pitch than the DR rod or the Euro rod. Now, the Euro rod and the DR rod both have the same pitch of 2.5. Coil rod will have a pitch of 6. We also have a select grouping of products that are available for the Euro rod system. We have a Euro thread, a DR threaded rod system here. This is a bow nose for basically makes a she bolt component. You would actually thread the Euro rod on the inside of this and on the outside of it. Once you are done pouring the wall, you can actually pop this component off the inside rod, and that would stay in the concrete. The cone here would actually pop out. Quicker and easier way to show you what we do have available on the Euro rod system is we have availability of what they call a through tie, which is very commonplace in the marketplace. Customers who they will actually use a PVC sleeve, send that all the way through, put plastic cones on the end that'll actually give you a definitive wall dimension, and then send a piece of coil thread all the way through it. Then attach a nut and a washer on the end. Now, the great thing about the European rod system is the European rod system basically has the same type, same size nuts on the ends. So you would have either a 5/8 or 7/8, and it would be on both ends. So you don't have to worry about having to have the wrong washer, wrong nut on the sides of the wall when you're putting them together, like you do with the coil threads. Because the coil threads, actually, if you're using a coil threaded product, you're going to have a bigger side on one side and a smaller side on the other. So you got to have a multitude of sizes and available, as it really becomes a hassle or headache in assembly. The European system actually took that problem and eliminated it. So basically, on their taper ties, they have a taper tie that will attach to the standard coil thread. Basically has the same thread on the outside, so you're going to use the same washer, nuts, etc., to make the attachment, then unscrew it, and make sure you always take off the little end and hit the little end through to pull out the taper tie out of the wall. You can also put a she bolt application in it. There is another application for a she bolt rather than a shear cone. But you have she bolts that you can actually attach. So that would actually enhance you to actually be able to do a multitude of thickness in wall thicknesses. And you can also do everything with one-sided walls that you could normally do with the standard coil rod system. This system here would be a heck of a lot faster for assembly and disassembly, which is what the purpose of the system, the design of the system was, so that it would actually enhance the assembly and disassembly of the wall fixed structure. Tie systems, the through tie system is probably the most common system because they can use just a standard tie, use a standard 3/4 inch PVC pipe, put a plastic cone on each end of it that would actually enable you to develop a standard wall thickness. And that would actually yield out at 40,000 pounds ultimate load, roughly 20,000 pounds safe working load. The taper tie is available in our DR European thread system. Uses the standard 5/8 or 7/8 inch ends. This is a system that is consistent with all of the new forming systems that are coming into the marketplace as we see them today. from the European segment and from any of the new American developed systems that we're playing catch up with. All of these systems typically have especially with the taper tie, you have a hole going all the way through the wall. Well, a lot of times you have to seal that hole. So if you're using it in say a water tank or some other like a wastewater treatment plant, etc., you're going to want to make sure that you plug that hole so that it becomes watertight. We have the A58 Sure Plug, which basically goes in. It's a piece of urethane material that you stretch it to get it in the hole, remove the insertion tool, and what will happen is the plastic components will actually start to shrink, basically contract back into itself, and it will seal off the hole there where you can then come back and patch it with a non-shrink grout. That is our program for the heavy duty forming systems with sticks and boards. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at training@DaytonSuperior.com or Chuck Hoke at DaytonSuperior.com. Thank you.